Alright, let's talk about the 5-paragraph essay. This is actually one of the most important skills you need to learn and that you need to master as a scholar. You may be thinking, why? Why this assignment? Why do I need to master this? Well, the primary purpose of this assignment is to help you become a better communicator in written form. While you have studied how to write expository text, that's nonfiction, in the past, it may have been years since you did so. My colleagues who teach undergraduates complain that even sophomores have already forgotten what they learned about writing during freshman composition. So it's no surprise that graduate students, and often their professors, go completely blank and sometimes panic when they have to write a paper or an article. So, to prevent that and get beyond that brain dead effect that sometimes comes, you need to master this concept of writing a 5-paragraph essay. If you're going to fill your role as one of the 1% of the world's population with a university education, then you also need to master this skill. If you can't write clearly and coherently, you will not have an impact within your sphere of influence like you should. Now, one of the most immediate reasons for developing this skill is that it will help you finish your degree. Regardless of your degree level, you will have to write papers, you will have to write comprehensive exams. They're all structured in the same basic way. You tell the reader what you're going to write about, you write about it, then you remind the readers what you just told them. Even up through the doctoral level, the basic writing structure will be the same. If you can write a 5-paragraph essay, then you can write your literature review, which some consider the most difficult part of the dissertation. In fact, if you can write a 5-paragraph essay, then you can use the same skills to write a complete dissertation. But, in more practical terms, if you are working in the field of education and have a graduate degree, you should be contributing to the field through your writing. If you can write a 5-paragraph essay, then you can write a publishable article, and that is something you can keep using until the end of your career. So, let's look at the structure. Let's get an advanced look. Guess what? The 5-paragraph essay will have 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph will be an introduction. The last paragraph will be a conclusion. And in between the introduction and the conclusion, you're going to present 3 main points. Each point will be presented in its own separate paragraph. Well, what do you write about in this essay, this 5-paragraph essay? Usually it's written in response to a prompt that your professor will give you, and you have to decide what position you're going to take, and more importantly, you have to decide what 3 points you're going to emphasize that support your position. What 3 points will you develop during your essay? Let's look at the specific parts of the essay. The first paragraph. This is the introductory paragraph. You're going to introduce your position with a thesis sentence. A thesis sentence is simply a sentence that states your position. State it clearly so the reader knows where you're coming from. This isn't a creative writing assignment, so it's not about using artful language or flowery language or very metaphorically rich language. This is about communicating your ideas, so you want to be as clear and as simple as possible. So you identify your position with a clearly stated thesis sentence. Then, in that same paragraph, you identify your 3 main ideas that will be used for supporting your position. Beginning with the second paragraph, you start presenting your main point. So you present your first main point in a thesis sentence. Then you write at least 3 additional sentences to develop the reader's understanding of your reasoning. Why is this main point justifiable? So you have to build support for it. Every sentence in this paragraph should talk about the same main point, developing it in another way. Your third paragraph takes the second main point, states it in a thesis sentence, and uses at least 3 supporting sentences to develop that idea as well. And guess what? 4th paragraph, the same thing. Here you're taking your 3rd main idea, developing it with at least 3 additional supporting sentences. The 5th paragraph, as you know from the advanced organizer that I shared with you, is the conclusion or summarization paragraph. Now, in this final paragraph, there are different ways that you can do things. You can summarize your position by repeating your points in different words, drawing conclusions based on your previous arguments, providing a synthesis of ideas. A synthesis is a new understanding beyond what was presented. By putting together these 3 supporting ideas, you come up with a new idea. And you should try to save something insightful to include in that final paragraph. Provide some additional insight, something a little more profound than what was presented in the introduction paragraph. Let's look at an example. So here's a writing prompt you might see in an introductory curriculum studies course, and since I'm a professor of curriculum studies, that's why I'm choosing this example. Given Tyler's position on multiple sources for curriculum, which source, the needs of the society, the needs of the learner, and so on, do you think should be the primary source for shaping curricular content? So look at the prompt, make sure you understand what the prompt is asking you, and then decide which position you're going to take with it. So you'll notice in this prompt, it is asking you to identify what you think should be the primary source for shaping the curriculum. So in this example, I'm going to choose a position. So I'm going to choose the position that the needs of society should be privileged, or should be the one that receive more attention than others when we are designing and developing curriculum. So I've chosen my position. I need 3 supporting points. So the 3 points that I've chosen are these. First, societies establish schools to ensure the continuation of their culture. Second, a society-shaped curriculum will lead to productive, employed adults. And third, societies are the ones who actually fund education. Therefore, their interests and needs should have first preference in the design and construction of curriculum. So now I've identified the position I'm going to take, and I've identified 3 points I'm going to use to argue my position. So let's look at my sample introductory paragraph. I do not claim that this is wonderful writing, but here you can see my sample introduction, and you'll notice that in the introduction I start with my thesis sentence. You don't have to start with the thesis sentence. The most common positions for your thesis sentence are to be the first sentence or the last sentence of a paragraph. And so you'll see I say, while many forces contribute to the overall shape of a school's curriculum, society's needs should be privileged above others. I take this position for 3 reasons. You'll notice I'm not being creative in the way I'm writing here. I'm being very direct and straightforward and clear. And then I list my 3 reasons. Then I move to my next paragraph. And if you'll remember from the advanced organizer, this is where I start developing my ideas. So the first of the ideas I'm going to develop is that societies establish schools to ensure the continuation of their culture. So here I talk about some things historically. Historically, schools were established to ensure the continuation of a society. Thus we read about, so I give examples from ancient history, Jews in the schools of the prophets, the school in Alexandria, and the great library in Egypt. And I refer broadly to the Greeks and their schools of thought. And then I bring my discussion and my writing into the current culture. So I talk about how Russian schools promote Russian culture, Kenyan schools promote Kenyan culture, and so on. And then I restate my thesis sentence, thus the culture of a society is the primary content of a curriculum. So that's my first main point that I've developed. I have my introductory paragraph, now I'm developing my first point. Now I'm going to develop my next point. And my second point that I'm presenting in the order that I'm presenting in this example is I've moved the funding into the second position. And so this paragraph talks about funding. I talk about how public schools are funded, and my supporting ideas are that public schools are funded by the public, the taxpayers. Private schools are funded by those who literally buy in to that kind of school, the culture they want to promote. And in the U.S., private parochial schools are funded by members of the churches that support those schools. Then I move to the fourth paragraph. In the fourth paragraph, this is where I'm talking about the idea I'm developing is that the curriculum should be designed so that the children will develop into productive, employable adults. And then we move to the fifth paragraph, which is the conclusion of the essay. This is where you're going to wrap things up. And so you can see how I've tried to do that here. I repeat my 3 points. I repeat the idea about educational institutions, continuing to share the mores and values, to extend them to other generations. I talk about the fact that society establishes and pays the bills so that children can learn. And then I talk about the fact that the general public funds these schools and therefore has a right to expect that children will emerge from the schools as responsible, self-sustaining individuals. So here you see an example of a 5-paragraph essay that I've created. I'm going to present it to you now, instead of on slides, as in one single document in Word. Alright, here we see my sample essay relating to what influences I think should have the biggest say in the school curriculum. And you'll remember I chose society's needs over that of the learner or over that of actual academic fields or anything else like that. Now, you can find this exact document on your course website, and you might want to pull it up on your screen while you're listening to this and looking at what I'm doing so that you can zoom in a little bit bigger. But what I've done with this document is to color code the different ideas. So the black sentences present my thesis statements in the introduction and the conclusion. Red is the first major point I'm making. Green is the second major point that I want to make, and purple is the third major point that I want to make. Now let me just make an aside statement here that all I'm focusing on right now is the content and structure of a 5-paragraph essay. I'm not trying to give you an example of a properly formatted APA document. If this was an APA document, all the text wouldn't be bold. I've made it bold so the color shows up better. I would have references in there. I would be citing things. I would have a reference list. I would have a cover page. The main purpose of this is to show you how the 5-paragraph essay is structured. So you'll see in this first paragraph, I have the first main idea, then I have the second idea, and I'm going to highlight it in pink. Ooh, that's hard to read. And then I have the third big idea. That's not working very well. Third big idea. Oh, that was a disaster. Let's just get rid of that. I've already got it color coded. So you'll see in the first paragraph, in the introduction, I have explicitly introduced the 3 ideas that I'm going to work on and develop to support my position. So the first idea, which I've colored red, gets developed in the next paragraph. So you'll see a red paragraph. The second idea the society it is society that funds the educational enterprise. That's the second idea. It gets developed in the second paragraph after the introduction. And so you'll see that the second idea about funding is in green in the introduction paragraph, and that third paragraph down there is green because that's where I developed that idea. The third idea I present in the first paragraph is purple. It gets developed in the third paragraph after the introduction, so paragraph number 4. And so here you'll see that I have a paragraph that I've colored in as purple. Now, the fifth paragraph is the conclusion paragraph. So you'll see that I have sentence that's in just plain bold black font. This is not the explicit thesis statement I started with in the first paragraph. I've kind of rephrased it to create a slightly different argument here. I'm not explicitly rephrasing my thesis statement, but I'm continuing the argument and making it a little more subtle in this case. However, each of my other points I am repeating in different words. So you'll see my first point again in red, second point in green, third point in purple. That is as simple as a 5-paragraph essay is. You choose a position based on a writing prompt. You identify 3 ideas that you're going to use to support that position. You develop each idea in a paragraph of its own with at least 3 supporting sentences, and then you write a conclusion paragraph where you summarize your thinking. That is the 5-paragraph essay. Have fun with it. You're going to be seeing a lot of it throughout your graduate career.